We want to welcome you all to our session, Supplier Diversity at Facebook. We're so glad that you could be here. Let me find a little clicker so I can make sure we're on the same page, literally on the same page. To get us started, I'll do a little introduction. My name is Will Hart. My company is called Smart Simple Marketing, and we are a digital marketing agency. We've been in business for about 12 years now. I am a contractor with Facebook, so I'll be talking about how you can do business with Facebook. I can't speak to Facebook's specific needs, but I can direct you to the right people, the supplier diversity team and others who are willing and ready to help you to do business with Facebook. So I'll get started, finish my introduction. We started our business about 12 years ago, and the funny thing is, as a small business, we had no idea what supplier diversity was. We didn't know what it meant, and we actually stumbled upon it, the term supplier diversity, at a networking event. That's how we get our business in our company. We do networking at events like this, at matchmaking events, and so we happened to be at a networking event and realized that it was a matchmaking event for corporations with small businesses like us. And that was really cool. So that was our introduction, and then we heard this term supplier diversity, and next thing you know, we started doing business with companies like tech companies like Facebook, Oracle, and other companies like that. So we're really happy to be here in Pittsburgh. Are you guys enjoying Community Booth so far? Yes. Good. How many of you been here all day? Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around and supporting the event. We're so happy to have you. And thank you for joining this session. The reason this session is, in my mind, is really special is because all the other sessions talk about how to do business on Facebook. We're going to talk about how to do business with Facebook. And so if you're interested in having Facebook as a customer, this is the place for you. So I'll give you some resources to help you to do just that, or to start the journey of knowing what it takes to do business with Facebook. So to look at our agenda, a few things that we want to consider today is how to do business with Facebook, the resources that you need to get started, and also how to get in touch and stay in touch with the team, the supplier diversity team at Facebook. A few things that we're not going to talk about. We're not talking about box checking, do-gooding, or set-asides. We are not discussing those things, because one of the things that the supplier diversity team at Facebook realizes is that they want to work with more diverse businesses, because they understand that diverse businesses like us are innovative, we move very quickly, and we can help them to accomplish their goals. And so it's not about set-asides and things like that. So those of you who may have diverse certifications, even if you're certified, you know that it's not about your certification that gets you business, it's the quality of your work. And that's what gets you in the door, and that's what keeps you in the door in corporations and with government entities. So to get us started, one thing that the Facebook Supplier Diversity team wants you to see is a video introduction. So please take note of this video.
Facebook's mission is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. That's a big job, and we can't do it alone.
Every single day, businesses of all sizes and across industries help Facebook move fast, be bold, be open, focus on impact, and build social value.
From companies that keep us fueled, hey Chef,
To those that keep us mobile.
From firms that produce our global events,
To businesses that come up with creative ways to tell our story, like this one.
Hey, quiet please, we're rolling.
Oh, sorry.
the thing that these companies have in common, they're all the best at what they do, and they bring their diverse experiences as minority, women, veteran, LGBT, and disabled-owned businesses to help us serve a community of more than 2 billion people around the world.
My work with Facebook requires me to be nimble, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm working with Facebook on projects that are creating value for minority-owned businesses and communities.
We not only value inclusion, we get better results because of it, and we want you to be a part of our journey. Start with learning who we are and what we value. We're direct and transparent. We're global and local. We're fast and agile. We're informative and fun. And it's all about impact. And yes, In case you were wondering, we're always on. Oh, hey.
So, visit us on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us, message us, watch one of our live broadcasts. Introduce yourself at an event.
We can't do this alone.
Help us build community and bring the world closer together.
I love that video more and more every time I see it. That music just makes me feel good. There's some other information that the team wants you to know. So, Jason Tribute, who you saw, is the manager there of the Supplier Diversity team. Tanika is his partner. And so, if you open your brochure, I want to share something with you that's really valuable. Everything in here is valuable, of course, but there's something that I want to point out. If you look at the little white sheet that's in there, notice in the third paragraph, there's a quote from Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Facebook. And notice what she says, and this is directed towards you as small business owners. We know we'll be more innovative and better serve our diverse partners by doing business with a diverse range of suppliers. And so one of their goals is to help you as a small business to come into the Facebook network and do more business. And the Supply Diversity team is a way of doing that. Just to get an idea of who we have in the room, how many of you are already doing businesses with corporations or government entities? And I like our panelists to look around and see, so that kind of shape our conversation as well. Okay, how many of you are certified diverse small businesses? So have certifications. Okay, this is great. All right, so we'll be talking a lot about certification, how it has helped our panelists, and that's the main part of our session, is you'll hear from a group of individuals who have experience in working as a small business in your region. And so we're happy to have them with us, and so we'll introduce them a little bit later. Now, one of the things as we go forward, I want you to think about this. As you might be a small business and you might say, why would Facebook buy from me? Switch that around and think and ask yourself this question. How can I help Facebook to solve a problem or to accomplish a goal? Because your product or service does just that. How many of you were able to go to the micro kitchen a little bit earlier? This is right outside this door. One of the things that the Facebook team does is they source local products and showcase them in the micro kitchen. So I think there were like 4 different local companies, food producers, and they had their products there. So that's a nice benefit of being a small business. So one of the questions you might have is, what does Facebook buy? Well, an easier question would be, what do they not buy? So as an example, from the micro kitchens, cupcakes, all the way up to the buildings that they build all around the world, those are the types of products and services that they're buying from businesses like ours. So that's why I want you to think, how can I help Facebook to solve a problem or to accomplish a goal? Because whatever product or service you are selling, it may be something that can help them to get their work done. So another question is, how does Facebook buy? Well, to clarify that first question, what does Facebook buy? It's pretty much everything. You'd be hard pressed to not be able to sell your product or service. But you got to get in there and figure out what the needs are. As a business, that's what we do. We find out what the needs and the challenges are, and we go and solve. Second question is, how does Facebook buy? Now, this is very interesting. If you're at certain events like WeBank or NMSDC, you'll find the Supply Diversity team at these events. Also, here at community booths, you might run into an employee, you might be speaking to an employee who has buying power for their team. So Facebook empowers many of their employees to buy from vendors that can help them to solve their problems, help them to get their job done. So there are a lot of employees who are walking around here, looking just like us, and they might be able to buy from them. So now, don't go chasing and tackling everybody, saying buy from me. But that's just one of the unique things about working with Facebook. You might be talking to an employee who might have a need and the ability to buy your product or service. So how can you connect with the Facebook Supplier Diversity team? First thing you can do this right now if you're on your phone. You can go to Facebook, type in Supplier Diversity, Facebook FB Supplier Diversity, like the page. I'll tell you this, one of the things that the Supplier Diversity team does when they're looking for a vendor, one of the first places they go is Facebook. And so if you're connected there, you can see what's happening, what they're up to, the supplier diversity team I'm talking about. What are they looking for? What are some of the challenges they're having? Connect with them, talk to them, and see what types of things that they're up to. Also, if you go to, you'll see it in your brochure there, there's a link. It's facebook.com/suppliers/diversity. You can register your company in that supplier diversity portal, and when Facebook has a need, they have a database where they can look at which vendors, small businesses like us, can help them to solve one of their problems. So that's a way to get in touch and stay in touch. Also, I have a contact card which has the email address for the supplier diversity team. So if any of you want to connect with them that way, I can give you that card after this session is over. And again, the best way to connect, I would say, is on the Facebook Supplier Diversity page on Facebook. So what we want to do next is hear from our locals. That's the main part of this session, is for you to hear from local businesses who have been working here in the Pittsburgh area. They know the landscape, they know about supplier diversity here, and they have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share with you that can help you if you're interested in doing business with corporations or government entities. So let's introduce our panelists. What I'll do, I'll introduce the panelists, and they'll come up one by one, and I'll introduce them individually. So first we have Yvonne Campos. She is the founder and president of Next Act Fund. She's a nationally recognized businesswoman, speaker, and focus group consultant. Next Act Fund helps women grow their personal wealth by investing in early stage, woman-owned led companies, thereby positively impacting women, the region, and the nation. Yvonne is an active member of the Pittsburgh business community and has been recognized locally and nationally for entrepreneurship and community involvement. So please, let's welcome Yvonne Campos. Next, we have Ron Alvarado, who is the president of Novus Group. Ron Alvarado is the president and founder of Novus Group LLC, a Pittsburgh-based staffing and recruitment outsourcing company. Mr. Alvarado served as the chairman of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce from 2013 to 2018. He proudly served on the Pennsylvania Workforce Investment Board, the governor's principal private sector policy advisor on workforce development issues. The Pittsburgh Steelers recently selected Mr. Alvarado as the recipient of the 2016 NFL Hispanic Heritage Leadership Award. Please welcome Ron Alvarado. And next we have Jordan McMillan, who is the owner of Cut and Run Studios. Jordan McMillan established Cut and Run Studios in January of 2005. He began his career as a freelance videographer, shooting weddings, mitzvahs, and music videos. In 2007, he opened the doors to a new 2,500 square foot production facility in Pittsburgh's South Hills. From there, he transformed a solo operated video production company into a multi-personnel media company. As the company grew, it expanded to commercials, promotional pieces, documentaries, live stream events, training videos, and much, much more. Please welcome Jordan McMillan. So as I mentioned, this is the most valuable part of our session today. We get to hear from our locals who have some valuable insights to share with us. And so let's get started. I did a little introduction, but we'll let them introduce themselves and tell a little bit more about what they do and what their company is all about. So Yvonne, when you get us started, tell us more about you and what your company does. Let's see. Yeah, it's on.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Nice to be here with everyone. I actually recently sold my business. I had a market research and strategy company for about 30 years. And so I sold that a few years ago, and then decided to open another company, which is the Next Act Fund that Will spoke about. And that is an angel investment fund where we focus on investing in women-led, women-run businesses. But when I started my company, the Market Research and Strategy Company, it was a company that we were very interested in growing from the very beginning. Started with one person, myself and one other person, ended up having at different times over 60 people working for me. Our goal there was to be able to work with significant clients across the country. We had business in this market, business across the nation. We did some international work. And part of our, we wanted to leverage anything that we could in order to ensure our success. And part of that was being a woman-owned business. So one of the things that we did, we definitely got certified. It is an arduous process. It will kill you. But if you're going to be using it and leveraging it, if you have a strategy for using it, I don't think everyone needs to be certified. Depends on your business and what your strategies are. But if you want to leverage that piece, by all means, you need to go through the certification process. We did that. We're able to win some contracts on that. Just because you're certified does not mean you win the business. Let me just tell you that. And would I say there's still room for improvement in the whole supplier diversity arena and the results? I would absolutely say yes.
Awesome, thanks. Ron, tell us a little bit more about you and your company.
Thank you. Novus Group, we founded the company November 20th of 2008, so we're approaching our 10-year anniversary. It's gone by very quickly. We're in the recruitment and staffing space. So we launched in 2008. By 2012, we were ranked the 5th fastest growing privately owned company in Pittsburgh. We've gone through our ups and downs. Last week, we hit our record high, so we broke our revenue high for the week, which is really thrilling after 10 years. So we're poised for growth. We're the region's only Hispanic-owned and operated staffing company, and so that gives us an edge as we see the demographic of the country shifting. We see more demand for bilingual talent, so we've leveraged our capabilities in that space as well. So great to be here. I want to thank Facebook. This has been fantastic. I started using Facebook recently, so this is timely, and I've seen the results, which is fantastic. But it's great to be here, and look forward to sharing some ideas with you folks.
Thanks, Ron. Jordan, tell us about you and your company.
My name is Jordan. I started Cut Run Studios in 2005, kind of by accident. I won a camera one day and started making music videos about my band and movies and such. And kind of just turned into something more than just a hobby. And 2005, I incorporated my business, which is doing video work on the side. And then 2007, I lost my job and started doing it full time and never turned back since then. I was a one-man operation for many years. And about 3-4 years ago, I hired one employee and kept on growing, hired another one and another one after that. And we have a new studio in Beachview that we just purchased a building and got a grant from the city to revitalize. And we do anything from promotional videos, marketing videos, to independent movies, to commercials, to anything that involves a video camera, anything multimedia.
Great, thank you. So that's an introduction of our panelists. And so now let's talk about what's happening locally. So we'll start with you, Yvonne. Can you let our small businesses know who are some of the players in the supplier diversity space? What are you seeing and have seen over the years?
Well, I think we have a lot of resources in this market. We have organizations that promote this. The Hispanic Chamber, the African American Chamber. We also have corporations in this area that have made commitments to supplier diversity and diversifying their the people that they work with. I think the idea is how do you really get connected to the actual people that you can do business with. That's the hard part, I think. You can get certified with certain commitment and so forth, and then you can have a wonderful product. The real issue is how do you get connected to the individuals that you want to work with that have somewhat of a priority within their organization. We do know that within, and it's really at the national level, national companies, big corporate companies, we also know at the state level, city, county level, they all have commitments to using minority suppliers. In fact, I believe the city at one point did have actually a goal of 9%, maybe has gone up to 10% of their suppliers, 15%, excuse me, to work with suppliers, diverse suppliers. So I think there's a lot of resources here and people that can help you, but the real key is how do you actually get the business? I think that's a challenge.
Let me ask you this, do you know of any events that are run either by corporations or even chambers that our small businesses can attend?
Absolutely. There's the Pittsburgh Regional Minority Council has job fairs where we connect, again, just like you're saying, where all the diversity supplier officers are at the site doing introductions, matchmaking. You can, if you're certified, you have access to some of those same opportunities nationally by going to their conferences and connecting with. I know that I connected with Office Depot that way. I connected with a couple of other large corporations by going to these kinds of job matching, vendor matching fairs and opportunities. But you have to take advantage of all that, right? They're not going to walk in the door.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to stay on that line, so next Thursday, EQT, Shell, and a number of energy companies, I think a dozen, it's grown to a dozen or more companies will be hosting a matchmaking session in South Point.
70, I said this year.
Sorry?
70 companies.
70 companies. So, you know, if you're, so it's certainly you want to be at the right place at the right time. That's the place, and I call those target-rich environments. But keep in mind that just because you're a certified minority-owned company, you know, that's got no value. And I've been embarrassed for people who I've been with who approach a prospective client and say, well, my value proposition is that I'm a certified minority-owned company. In the energy space or in any space, right, you have to know about your marketplace. And you have to be smart and aggressive and creative because you have to bring a value proposition. So fortunately for us, we were at one of these events and we were the only company contracted by Chevron, a super major, locally to provide staffing services. That was a hunt. It took me about over a year. I was in the right place at the right time over and over again. And I knew more about their staffing needs than they did. And so whenever I had an opportunity to meet with these folks, I was on. I knew exactly, I knew who I was going to talk to, I knew who was going to be there. So in these matchmaking sessions, you can learn who the representative is going to be. You know who the companies are. And, you know, and you can go online, and if I want to see Mike Frazier from Chevron, I go online and look at his profile. I know where he lives, what his wife's name is, how many kids he has, where he went to school, what he likes to do. And those are important things because as I meet him, I know who I'm looking for because I've seen his picture, I know what he's all about, and I know what the company's all about.
So it's really having a strategy put in place before you go to these matchmaking sessions, obviously. And not only are there joint sessions like that where many corporations are together, but individual corporations, Highmark, for example, has had 12 this year, where they bring in try to bring in as many suppliers, diverse suppliers as they can to do a matchmaking session internally within that organization. So large corporations will do that.
So now, Ron, you mentioned, I think you kind of answered the question I was about to ask. I was going to ask you, how did you get started in supplier diversity? Was it just by attending events and you stumbled upon it that way?
No. So for me, I launched the business in November of 2008, and I was talking to Nick Nichols at the time, the president of the EMSDC, which is something, Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, is the local chapter of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And so that was part of my strategy. I knew I was going to get certified. I knew that there was advantages and you could leverage it. One of the things I will say is that you would never see, and even if you look at my website today, you'll have to deduce that I'm a minority-owned company because that's not my lead. That's the and by the way. So it's all about value proposition. In fact, as a minority-owned supplier, or as a diverse supplier, women-owned, etc., our standards that we're going to be held to are so much higher. And that was very much frustrating for me early on. I would meet over and over again with folks that became my friends who kept telling me, what's your value proposition? I said, I know who you're working with now. So you're going to hold me to a tremendously high standard. I'm telling you what my value proposition is. So
Ron, let me stop you right there because we're getting into the advice section. So we would definitely want to get into that a little further. I want to ask Jordan, how did you and your company get started in supplier diversity? Like, what made you get certified?
I probably just going to networking events and meeting with people who were certified that told me, you should check it out, look into it. The whole process is extremely confusing. there's nobody there to hold your hand and walk you through any of this. I mean, a lot of it is just dig in and figure it out. And, you know, me at first was told to look through registering through Allegheny County MWDBE, and I did. I registered, and then I think, okay, now what? Is business supposed to start just coming through? Are people going to call me? What? I mean, I had no clue what was the next step. I got registered, and then when I was, registered for years, and never had anything. And then one day, Ron told me about the EMSDC. He asked me if I'm certified. I'm like, yeah, I'm certified. And he's like, through the EMSDC? What is that? I thought I was already certified. Apparently there's a...
You were registered, you weren't
I was
certified.
registered, I wasn't certified. But, it's part of that confusing thing. And then, I finally get registered with the EMSDC. I start going to the events more. And, like everybody says, it's not just being registered or certified that's going to get you anything.
Yeah.
The only work that I've gotten from it was just from meeting and knowing people at these events, going to them so much that they knew what I did, and then when the need came along, they remembered me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could have gotten it just by knowing them and not being certified.
Yeah. Just a second, Don, I just want to jump on that point. You would think that when you start your business that you know about these resources, or someone would help, like you said, no one holds your hand through the process. I mean, we tried filling out the paperwork, but we hired somebody, and we have somebody who helps us with all of our certifications every year. They say your certification's coming up, we pay them money, and they get us going. So we don't want to get stuck on certification, but I will say this: being in the right place and letting people know what your value proposition is as a small business is what's important. We got our first full corporate contracts before we even got certified in our company. So it's about here's the point. If you want to work with corporations like Facebook, I gave you an outline of what you can do to get into that world. If you want to work with other corporations here locally, these are good resources for you who've done it already and can help you to find out what are some of those events so that we can show up and start working on that level. Before we start working with corporations, we only work with small businesses. And when we found out corporations buy the same stuff we're selling small businesses, why not? So that's how we ended up in this space. Go ahead.
What I was going to say, Will, is the beauty of being part of a minority and supply diversity program is you get a much smaller group and easier face-to-face contact at these events. Instead of everybody in the world being at these events, it is people that are minority or diverse suppliers along with the people that are certified. So, your visibility increases versus instead of 3,000 people being at the event, maybe there's 200 people at the event, and it gives you the opportunity to have much more exposure.
Yeah.
That's a huge benefit.
That's good.
That's a huge benefit.
Ron,
If we can tie on, I'll just have one quick footnote on certification. What I advise people when you're starting a business, if you're going to certify, get all the certifications at once because you'll need to straighten your paperwork. Imagine doing your taxes. You have all your paperwork out, do them all. So for example, Pennsylvania has the Pennsylvania Department of General Services, right? PADGS. So you do PADGS small business, but you also have to be a diversity. So it's a different thing. You have the other. The other Allegheny. So there's a lot of different certifications, but we'll do them all at once. One of the things I will say is that it does provide an opportunity that's niched. So companies have altruistic goals. So Facebook may have and that's a strategic goal. They know that their audience, their consumer base is very diverse, right? But you have companies that have a mandated requirement because of their contracts with the federal, state, or local governments. They have to find this thing. If not, they're gonna lose a contract, or they're not gonna get a contract, or they're not gonna keep a contract. So there's that mandate, but again, it goes back to your value proposition. If you can walk in, so these resources that are available, whether it's EMSDC, the local chamber, Hispanic chamber, if you're at these events, you're gonna be running into the same people over and over again. It's taken me, I just signed a contract earlier this week, big one. So it took me 10 years. And it was a diversity spend piece, right? Because this is a company that gets a lot of government business, so they have a requirement. But because they know me, and I've been in business now 10 years, I'm not fly by night, because there's a risk, right? If I'm a supplier, if I'm an agent, a purchasing agent at one of these big companies, it's easy for me to stay with who I have, right? Because there's no risk. The risk is I'm going to bring you in. to my supply chain, and it might blow up. Or it could be a tremendous success, but you have to have an advocate that's willing to take that risk. But you have to help them mitigate the chances of you not being successful.
Now, let me throw this question out there. I have an answer for it, but I'm interested to see if you have an answer. Do you have a strategy for when you get one contract with a corporation to get other contracts inside that organization?
You better.
No, you know, I'm talking about your company.
Yes,
Let's
so-
Jordan. Let's start with Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of different things that we do, and oftentimes I'll try to just do anything that they need to get my foot in the door. For instance, we do mainly video production, but we also do photography. We also do audio visual services.
Okay.
So we did with the Rivers Casino, where we wanted to do video for them for years, and once again, it was a 10-year chase that we did. They didn't need any video services, but they needed photography for some of the events that they had. So, we've been supplying them with event photography services for 8 or 9 years. The opportunity came up to where they needed a commercial film. They were no longer working with their current production company, and we had the opportunity, and it was just because we had been there, been jumping in their ears for the last 9-10 years, and the last commercial they did, we produced.
I think that's one of the behaviors that all businesses, not just minority women-owned businesses, have to do better, is leveraging the referral aspect within any kind of business that you have. We're not good at that generally, and in particular, you may be working in one vertical of a company, but obviously there's other verticals that you can cross over to, and we need to, that's our job to get in there, but that means that we have to talk to the people that we currently with and have them refer us to someone else, and or other people in other companies. I mean, that's how you leverage that. Because all these supplier diversity people, they know each other, they're talking, basically. And so if you've got somebody great doing some work for you, you'll be happy to share that with you. But it's our job to make sure that we're asking them to do that. And that we are the kind of supplier, because of what we deliver, and deliver a lot more than is expected, that they'll want to refer us to additional business.
And I think one of the other suggestions that I would have is, once you get your foot in the door, measure performance. So when we got into Chevron, I said, okay, so I want you to quantifiably measure my performance on a quarterly basis, because I'm going to be measuring it. I want you to measure it, and then I want you to compare my KPIs against your other suppliers. If I'm better, I want more business. I deserve that. If I'm not good, fire me. If I'm not as good, then I don't deserve to do business with you. But we had that meeting, and we did outperform. And then the other thing is, one of the other clients that I have is a large company here. So I provide monthly metrics. I do year-over-year metrics for them on a monthly basis, and they're seeing my curve, and they share that with the executives. Wow, and then the only way I said, this is great, but the only way we can do this, and I have a lot of accolades. That's what I'm putting together next for them, all of my kudos. Because it's about, hey, you took the risk, this is how we're performing against these incumbents that you've had on, and so a supplier diversity person is beaming. It's their job. We make them shine. And we demonstrated that we can bring a lot of value to the organization, that we quantify it on a monthly basis, and we deliver. So you want to do that, just feed it back to them, make it easy for them to show them how they're shining, right? Help them do their jobs a little better.
I'll add to that, in our experience as a small business working with corporations, our objective is to get into an organization and see what other partner teams have the same problem that we're helping the current teams to solve, or who has a similar goal. For example, it could be creating a training program for diverse-owned businesses that the small business team wants to create. And then maybe there's another team that has a similar issue that they're working on, and we can kind of provide that same product with another team. So, as was mentioned, when you're working with someone inside of a large organization, ask them, who are their colleagues that are experiencing the same types of problems or are trying to accomplish the same goals, and can you be introduced to them? Because who doesn't want to get their job done? Everybody wants to do their job quicker, better, faster, under budget. And so you can be that solution for other teams once you get inside these organizations. So keep that in mind. So think about that question I asked you to focus on earlier. How can I help this corporation accomplish a goal or solve a problem? And one of the things that I want you to consider too is when you're looking at a corporation and you're working with one team, that is a small business unit. It's not the whole, you're doing business with a human. And even though they have Facebook behind the name, that's a person who's trying to solve a problem. And so you can help them to do that. That's one small business that you're working with, and you have probably had the capabilities of reaching many others. So my next question for you is this, Yvonne, this is for you, and Ron, I'm sure because of the level that you work at, you can dig into this as well. For our small businesses in the room, what are some of the opportunities that you're aware of locally?
Well, I think if you look, there's always, from the city and from the state, there's always opportunities, but again, it depends on the kind of business you're in. There's some businesses that just really don't translate to some of the opportunities that exist. I was in a service business, much less opportunity than a product-oriented business. If I was in a furniture manufacturing, if I was supplying electronic material or equipment or concrete or what have you. So you need to look at the kinds of opportunities that exist. And within organizations, I will tell you the challenge that we faced on occasion is sometimes when you approach a large corporation, one of the things that they consider is, can you actually deliver at the scope that they need? Are you big enough to help address that problem? And a lot of the times you're not. You just actually are not. And so unless that corporation wants to work with you to solve the problem, how can we make this work? Maybe we can put 2 or 3 suppliers together to then address that particular issue. For example, there's a minority-owned business in town that has a cleaning company that does all the cleaning for all the Highmark buildings and hospitals and so on and so forth. Well, she has staff of 20 people at one time. I mean, how's she ever going to do that? But the point is, they work with her to help her build and partner with other resources so that she became a larger corporation and could do that. Sometimes you're just not poised to be able to service them at the level that they need. So thinking about that and being very targeted about where you can deliver and are being creative about how you can deliver would be very important.
Ron, what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing for small businesses in the room?
Opportunities, so I think there's always opportunity you created for yourself. I mean, we launched our business in the height of the economic downturn, right, during the Great Recession. So there's always going to be opportunities, but you have to find your niche. You have to build a strong value proposition, and you have to have capacity. And the other thing is that keep in mind, when you want to be careful what you wish for, right? You get in the door and then you see these margins, and they want you to commit, and they're going to beat you up for price. And your contract, the contract that we got from somebody, we get from these 50, 60 pages. And you get a response to an RFP. It's going to, against the nationals that I compete with, they have 100 people in their team that's going to do this RFP response. So there are opportunities. You got to find your niche. You got to understand what your competitive proposition is and what your competitive environment is, and then go out there and work it's about networking. So there's organizations, whether it's the African American Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the other chambers, Wheat Bank, MSDC. That's where these folks go. Like I told Jordan when I first, gotta be there. Jordan said, should I go to Philly? I was you, I'd go to Philly. You gotta be there, right?
And it is about relationships.
Oh, definitely. It's all about relationships.
Business is relationships. So if you want to establish a relationship with someone at the company, you gotta show up where they're going to be.
That's it. We talk B2B, B2C, right? When it comes to business, it's H to H. It's human to human. That's it. You have a product or service that solves a problem for another human. That's what business is all about. Relationships, just as you both said. Now, our time is wrapping up. So I have one last question for our panelists. We'll start with you, Jordan. With our small businesses here in the audience, what piece of advice would you give them? This is not about certification, not about, do your best, but what piece of advice would you give them to help them to be successful with trying to get a corporate client?
If I was successful, No, I mean, I have got a couple corporate clients before, but my best advice is persistence. Just keep on calling people. Don't let one no deter you. Most of the corporate jobs that I got, I pretty much annoyed people until I got the job, calling them every month, asking if they need anything yet. No, until one day, they finally need it. So persistence. Like, if you never give up, you'll never fail.
Thank you for that, Joe. Now, Joe's being modest. You go to his website and you look at his clients.
That's great.
He's being modest. And I really encourage you to connect with all these folks. I mean, these are some powerhouses in your backyard. I'm staying connected to them. Ron, what advice would you give our small businesses
So
here?
I think the advice I would give is to be, so it's very competitive, so try to niche and understand what your niche is. So for me, we got into energy because of the Marcellus Shale boom, and we niched it. We just happened to fall into the land space of energy, and lucked upon a Wall Street Journal reporter that was looking to do a piece, and we were national. I got a call from a company that's out in Arkansas. Happens to be one of the top 10. I thought it was a prank. So we need help in White Sox and Tucson. I've never heard of these places. They're up there in the eastern part of the state. It became a large client. So I think find your niche and then work the niche, right? Because in my case, I can't compete with the multinationals. They'll kill me. But I can compete with anyone on a niche basis if I have the buyer paying attention to the KPIs and the value proposition and then measuring it. I'll compete with anyone. But if you're going to be in a commodity environment, so be very deliberate about the niche that you want to play in, regardless of the space, right? Because you could be selling paper products. Well, sell hard paper. He's doing so. I think find your niche and then focus. Now, the flip side of that is if you find a niche, you might put all your eggs in one basket. So try to find your niche within medical, healthcare, not oil and gas. Because when the Marcellus Shale, when the prices went up, prices went down, yeah, my business went. So the suggestion would be niche, and then try to find a industry sector that you can play in for a while. Because once you're niche, so again, if I was only doing energy, I'd be out of business.
Thank you. Ron, what piece of advice would you give our small business?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is build a strong business, because everything else doesn't matter. So you need to really, as a leader of a business, you as a leader are really visionary, and you need to know what your value proposition is, where you're going, what do you want to build, what are you creating. Find strong people, because you can't do it all yourself. And really, if you want to work for a large corporation, unless you're going to go in as a consultant, like a one-person shop, it's very difficult to deliver if you don't have a great team behind you. Because you're going to have to give up some of that control to smart people in your organization, so you can be working on the company and not in the company. So really, before you do anything, you've got to build this business. And there's work out there. There's work to be had, whether it's big corporations or not. But unless you have a strong business, you're not going to be able to withstand the stress of working for large corporations. So you've got to have that team in place. You got to know what you're strong at, and really work on yourself as a leader.
Thank you for that. Thank you all. Was this helpful at all? Okay, good. Majesty is nodding yes. Hey, let's give our panelists a round of applause, please. We thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate your rapt attention to this session. Please let the Facebook team know how you felt about it by voting there with the little booth on how the session was for you. We really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.